Thailand and Cambodia agreed to an immediate ceasefire on Saturday. The two countries said in a joint statement pledging to end weeks of deadly border clashes. The conflict spread to nearly every border province on both sides, shattering an earlier truce for which US President Donald Trump took credit. The truce applies to all types of weapons, including attacks on civilians, civilian objects and infrastructures, and military objectives of either side in all cases and all areas. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us all the latest in this report.
Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an immediate ceasefire on Saturday, pledging to halt weeks of deadly border fighting that marked the worst clashes between the neighbors in years. The agreement was signed by the defense ministers of both countries in Thailand's Chanthaburi province following 3 days of border talks, triggered by an emergency meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers. The fighting, involving artillery, rocket fire, drones and fighter jets, spread across multiple border provinces, killing dozens and displacing hundreds of thousands on both sides.
After this ceasefire that we will maintain fully for 72 hours, the Thai side will release the 18 Cambodian soldiers who have been in Thai captive for 151 days already. This ceasefire is in accordance to the spirit of Kuala Lumpur Joint Declaration on October 26, 2025. On top of that, the ceasefire today will pave the way for villagers who have been evacuated from home along the border to return and live at their homes, do business and work in the farms.
The ceasefire applies to all types of weapons and includes a freeze on troop movements, with both sides agreeing not to reinforce positions along the frontier. The deal also allows civilians displaced by the fighting to return home and bars the use of force against civilian targets. ASEAN will deploy an observer mechanism to monitor compliance alongside direct coordination between the two militaries to prevent renewed escalation.
At the policy level, there will be direct communication via a hotline between the defense ministers and the commanders-in-chief of both sides. If necessary, senior representatives from both sides will be deployed to the area to jointly resolve any issues.
The clashes stem from a long-running dispute over undemarcated sections of the colonial-era border and ancient temple sites claimed by both countries. While the truce has halted the fighting for now, the underlying territorial issue remains unresolved. Diplomatic efforts are set to continue, with Chinese, Thai and Cambodian foreign ministers scheduled to hold talks on December 28th and 29th in China's Yunnan province, focusing on the Thailand-Cambodia border dispute. Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
All right, and we are joined by our guest, Mr. Anil Wadhwa. He's former Indian ambassador to Thailand. Mr. Wadhwa, a very warm welcome to DD India News Hour. First of all, see, we all know what the latest update is. Thailand and Cambodia have signed a ceasefire agreement. I want to ask you that the earlier ceasefire happened in the month of July, which was brokered by US President Donald Trump. Now, my question is to you, that how credible is this ceasefire? How do you assess this ceasefire which has just taken place between both the sides?
So I think a lot is at stake for both Thailand and Cambodia. The problem is this, that so far there was no observer mission, and this time around I think ASEAN has learned that lesson, and finally Thailand and Cambodia have accepted an observer team which will be based to monitor this ceasefire. I still believe that peace is quite fragile, though, because the underlying causes have not been addressed in this conflict. The underlying causes, of course, are that there is this 817-kilometer long border which needs to be demarcated.
Yeah.
And the mechanism that the two countries have to solve that issue is very slow. It does not make much progress. And in the past, we've seen that because of that, there has been sporadic incidents on both sides of the border, which causes this conflict to re-erupt.
Indeed. Also, Ambassador, this issue is not something new. We all know that it dates back to over a century. But my question is that why did it pick heat this year? And especially in December. December 7 to be very precise, and because we've heard different versions from both the sides. Thailand is saying something else, Cambodia is saying something else. So how do you look at it?
So I think we should go back to the eruption of this conflict in July, because that was the month in which Cambodia, wanted a UNESCO recognition for the Priya Vihar temple.
Yes.
As you know, the Priya Vihar temple came under dispute because Thailand contested that. And finally, in 1962, of course, Cambodia was awarded the Priya Vihar temple.
Yes.
But the lands around the temple and the adjoining lands, which have other ancient temples in the vicinity, they were all disputed. And Thailand, always said that the maps which were depicted by the French
Yeah.
were inaccurate maps which are 2 centuries
And they are
old.
going against the ICJ ruling?
They are not going against the ICJ ruling because there's a demarcation commission that has been set up between the two countries. But at the same time, whenever there is something to do with the Priya Vihar temple, this old dispute resurfaces. And this time around, Thailand blamed Cambodia for trespassing, and the Cambodians blamed the Thais for singing their national anthem on in the vicinity of the temples which are disputed.
Indeed, but from a broader picture when we see it, Ambassador, that both the sides are blaming each other and they are saying that they have attacked each other in defense, not attacked, to begin with. But, when it comes to the landmine issue, Thailand is saying that Cambodia has landmines which they have just put. On the other hand, Cambodia is saying that these are not the landmines which we have just put. They were like there since the ages. So how do you see that? I mean, what could be a solution of that?
So look, as far as Cambodians are concerned, they are the weaker party in this conflict. And obviously, they will have to take resort to ways and means in which the Thai army cannot enter their territory, or they claim to be their territory. So obviously, landmines are the safest option to do that, and the most convenient option. But of course, we know that the Cambodian territory has been mined before, and it's been a struggle for them to take out all these mines. But of course, with the help of the international, bodies and other foreign players, they've been able to handle that issue quite well in the past. So it becomes a convenient excuse to say that these mines existed from before. So the truth lies somewhere in between. And I think unless the demarcation commission makes progress in its talks under the observer mission from the ASEAN, I'm afraid we might see a resurrection of this conflict again at some point.
Okay, and that would somewhere affect the geopolitical situation as well, don't it?
It does because, as far as ASEAN is concerned, it's very difficult for it to contain intra-ASEAN conflicts. And it's been struggling with what has been going on in Myanmar already.
Yeah.
On top of that, we have this resurrection of this conflict. So they've been struggling with it for a while. But I think Prime Minister of Malaysia, which is the current chair, has done a good job in terms of mediation.
Indeed. Ambassador, did you notice something when the border skirmishes started this time? They reignited in the month of December. Then somewhere around, I mean, you have to analyze it, that when Thailand was attacking Cambodia, Cambodia was urging restraint. So what do you think could be the cause of it? They were not attacking like they did in the month of July when the border skirmishes happened. Was it so?
Yes, of course. I think what has happened is that the bilateral mechanism, resurrection of that mechanism has not worked, and also there's internal turmoil in Thailand at the moment.
Yeah.
If you look at the stability of the government, that's very much in doubt.
And elections are also pending.
Elections are also pending. So the army wants to reassert its control in the current circumstances. So it's a combination of factors there. And I think it was the outcome has been possibly good for Thailand in the current Thai army because they have actually shown that they have the muscle. So they proved themselves, and as far as Cambodia is concerned also, the ceasefire helps them a lot. Of course, 500,000 people have been displaced
Yeah,
because of the latest conflict. So that's a big number. And I'm glad that they've agreed that the civilians will not be attacked when they return back to their homes.
definitely. And you also are saying that you just said a while back that you're afraid that these border skirmishes may happen again because this ceasefire, this truce is quite fragile, and that means more killings and more displacements of the people along the border. Although both the sides have reaffirmed the commitment to the safety, security of the people living along the border.
Yes, I'm glad that they've reiterated their commitment to
Yeah,
maintain peace and tranquility.
yeah.
Um, but because of the process being such and the underlying issues not being addressed adequately,
Hmm.
that is why this peace is still fragile. So
Hmm.
I think both sides should now redouble their efforts to make sure that the Demarcation Commission meets frequently, and it's good that they've set up a hotline now between the two armies, and they've also agreed that the army commanders will be in touch. Plus, they will have representatives who will be able to sort out this issue as soon as it erupts.
Definitely. And Ambassador, do you also think that these border skirmishes between the two countries will somewhere affect the impact, in fact, the economies of the two nations? Because, somewhere it will impact tourism as well. People will fear going into these countries, thinking what will happen. This is also a question comes into the minds of the people who want to travel to Thailand or Cambodia for that matter.
I'm certain it will because I think both countries will suffer as far as tourism is concerned.
Yeah,
Economically, of course, it's a drain on both sides.
yeah.
But as far, if you look at the Priya Vihar and its surrounding areas, definitely the tourists will be very afraid to go there until the situation stabilizes for many months to come.
Definitely. Also, Ambassador, the foreign ministers of Thailand, Cambodia, and China will also meet in the coming days. So, what do you make of this, and what possible talks, according to you, might take place?
So I think that is a good thing, a good development, and in fact, it was the foreign ministers of the ASEAN which had met on the 22nd of this month, which has paved the way for the latest ceasefire. So I think involving China in this process means that they want to ensure that there is an external powerful neighbor who will be able to then make sure that things stay in control. But I'm sure there would be further developments with regard to the Chinese presence because the United States would then like to be also present in any future grouping which comes about. So we'll have to wait and watch and see how that develops.
Okay, we'll have to. And very quickly, Ambassador, last question before we let you go, sir. How should, in fact, India look at this situation right now?
So I think India has always, asked for restraint on both
Right,
sides because it's friendly with both countries.
right.
It does not want any turmoil in Thailand or Cambodia. India has investments in both countries, and it wants to be able to see a prosperous ASEAN because of the relationship that we have. Also, these areas are those which hold special significance for India. Our teams are working in the vicinity, restoring some of the temples, and I think for us it's important that the situation remains calm and peaceful.
Definitely. And Ambassador, India's stance has always been, when it comes to in the situation of conflicts and wars, that nothing has ever been found when it comes to the battlefield. Only dialogue and diplomacy are the ways through which one can attain peace. But thank you so much, sir, for talking to us and joining in on DD India News. Thank you so much.
Thank you.